Caro, good morning, friends, family, colleagues. Welcome to the 2026 Lemon Project Symposium. I am Professor Omiyẹmi Artisia Green. I am a professor in theater and Africana studies. I'm a provost faculty fellow, and I am also faculty director of the Art and Science Exchange. But this morning, I am standing in front of you as a priest of Ifa and priest of Yemoja to pour libation. We are going to pour libation with water because water is the common element that binds all of us in this room. Some of it I'm going to say in Yoruba and some of it I'm going to say in English, but just go with me. Ibashe eshiodara, ibashe omitutu, funari ori tutu, ashe. Ejiope mopeyo, ejiope mopeyo, ejiope mopeyo. Watitiwa, watitiwa, watitiwa. Okoro shole babalao omi, lori fafun omi, omini tiukole orun. Boasi kole aye, uoni ki okara ni leo boni shishe. Bomi baba lea nipa, ojo omi bale ala lucha. Bomi baba lea nipa, ashe. Ejiokbe says that when water hits the ground, it makes an impact. So we offer this water today, that it may be an impactful offering to the ancestors who I am sure will be invoked over the next 2 days throughout this symposium. May it be a strong enough appeasement that it is going to sustain them and the work that they do for us, and that it will sustain us and the work that we do for them, in the ways in which we build on the legacy of Lemon and the legacies within our respective lineages. May we not be as Odusola, as spoken of in the Odu, Oturapan Meji, as the one who knelt and greeted the ancestors behind and knelt and greeted the ancestors in front of them and didn't know what to offer. We know to offer water because we are friends of water, and we know that everything, everyone, and every moment is born out of water. Just as water is soft, may we too be soft. May our minds and may our hearts be soft enough to receive the fire that is sure to come from our keynote speaker, Dr. Daniel Black, and all of the intellectual and cultural offerings that will be made over the next 2 days. May they land where we are most capable of receiving them. And just as water is strong enough to break a rock, may we too be strong in the face of those forces that seek our dehumanization, those obstacles that impede justice, and may our ancestors continue to aid us in our pursuit of it. Ashe.
Thank you, Professor Green. The land acknowledgement and labor acknowledgement. William and Mary acknowledges the indigenous peoples who are the original inhabitants of the lands our campus is on today. The Cherenhaka Nottoway, Chickahominy, Eastern Chickahominy, Mattaponi, Monacan, Nansman, Nottoway, Pamunkey, Patawomic, Upper Mattaponi, and Rappahannock tribes, and pay our respect to their tribal members, past and present. Our labor acknowledgement. The Board of Visitors acknowledges that William and Mary enslaved people, exploited them and their labor, and perpetuated the legacies of racial discrimination. The board profoundly regrets these activities, apologizes for them, expresses its deep appreciation for the contributions made by the African and African American members of its community to the vitality of William and Mary, then, now, and for all time coming, and commits to continue our effort to remedy the lingering effects of past injustices. Ashe. Now, I am Dr. Jajuan Johnson, the Interim Robert Francis Engs Director of the Lemon Project, A Journey of Reconciliation, and I would like to welcome you to the 16th Lemon Project Spring Symposium here at the School of Education. Give yourselves an applause. Before I go forward, I would like to recognize the Lemon Project team. Please stand if you're in the room. Dr. Sarah Thomas, who is our Associate Director. We have Kelly Conway, who is the American Studies Graduate Assistant. We have Nia Patrice Lewis, who is our History Department Apprentice. And we are a small and mighty team, so please join me in showing them some love, so be kind to them. And I also want to express our deep appreciation to all of those who volunteered to make this happen. This takes about a year plus to plan, and so I want to thank those who have been with us along the way. It's also befitting to acknowledge the president of William & Mary, President Rowe, and Provost Agoras in their absence. The symposium is supported by the Vision 2026 Signature Event Award. We also extend special recognition to the Dean of College Arts and Sciences, Suzanne Raitt, whose Dean Innovation Award helped to make this gathering possible. Also, the Lemon Project resides in university libraries, so I want to thank our library colleagues who are in attendance, especially Jay Guidemore, the Director of Special Collections, and our Interim Dean of Libraries, Lisa Nickel. I would also like to acknowledge, I don't know if Dr. Allen is here, but our previous director, Dr. Jody Allen. Her years of service stand as a pillar in the foundation of this work that calls institutions of higher education to reckon with slavery and its enduring legacies. Under her leadership, the Lemon Project became one of the earliest, actually the second, initiative of its kind in the nation, grounded in a commitment to building meaningful bridges between William & Mary and African American communities. Let's give Dr. Allen a hand. So to all of those who are joining us via Zoom, and to those gathered here at William & Mary School of Education from cities such as Newport News, Hampton, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, you can say something if I call you a city, Richmond, Charlottesville, and beyond. All right, we welcome you. We are honored to have guests traveling from North Carolina, from Baltimore, Washington, D.C., okay, Maryland Eastern Shore, New Jersey, Memphis, Tennessee, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and many other places. Thank you for being in common unity with us. In your communities, you have been doing the sacred work, documenting stories, preserving cemeteries, churches, records, homes, and schoolhouses, sites that hold the narratives of a mighty and precious people who understood the power of dignity. You have been tying together the loose threads of family, reconnecting those who slavery made strangers, and you have come here to stand with others committed to telling these stories, not only for remembrance, but for the sake of humanity itself. We gather here, yeah, you can clap. We gather here for the lessons and the blueprints, for ways to survive and to thrive. We gather for the inspiration to endure, even when the work feels heavy, even when the path forward is unclear. The Lemon Project Symposium has long been a necessary gathering place, shaped by the themes that speak directly to our shared journey. In 2023, At the Root, Exploring Black Life, History, and Culture called us to center local Black histories and their expansive influence. In 2024, Taking Our Time, Healing Through Black History, Family, and Community invited us to consider how we confront and move through generational trauma. And in 2025, Undefeated, somebody say undefeated. Black Resilience Through Resistance, Creativity, and Cooperation, inspired by the words of Dr. Maya Angelou, reminded us that while we may encounter defeats, we must not be defeated. So we have gone to the root. We have taken our time, and we have remained undefeated. And today, we gather under the theme, United We Stand, a call to recognize that the strengthening of Black communities through courage, dignity, and joy is inseparable from the broader struggle of the collective liberation of all people. So let this not just be a convening, let it be a charge. As Ella Baker reminded us, strong people don't need strong leaders. The work before us has never depended on a single voice, a single institution, or a single moment. It depends on all of us, on our willingness to organize, to listen, to build, and to act. So let us leave this space after Saturday, not only inspired, but committed to carrying this work back into our communities, to strengthening ties that bind us, and to building something enduring forever. Because when we are united, not just in presence, but in purpose, there's no limit to what we can transform. So welcome to the 2026 Lemon Project Symposium. And so next, I'm going to call forth my colleague, Dr. Iyabo Osiapem, who's going to welcome us. And then after, Johnette Gordon-Weaver will introduce our speaker for the hour. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am so happy to be here, but I just got my eyes dilated, so I'm hoping this works out. The text is big, but nonetheless, it is lovely to be here on this spring-like morning as well, especially after the past few days of cold that we've had. It is a privilege to gather with you all today, students, faculty, alumni, community members, and guests who have committed to the ongoing work of truth-telling, justice, and meaningful transformation. The Lemon Project reminds us that history is not distant, nor is it abstract. It lives with us in our minds, in our bodies, and in the physical world surrounding us. It shapes our institutions, our communities, and it should shape our responsibilities to each other. This symposium is not simply an academic event, and that is intentional. It is a space of reckoning and possibility. It is a place where we come together to engage in difficult and extraordinary histories, to honor the lives and labor of those whose contributions were exploited and erased, and to think collectively about what repair and accountability can mean in this present day. As we gather at this moment when this work feels especially urgent, across the country, we are witnessing renewed political efforts to limit how history is taught, to narrow the scope of the inquiry, and to cast suspicions on fields like Black studies and other areas of scholarship that challenge the popular narrative of this country. These efforts often claim to promote neutrality and unity, but in practice, they risk silencing the very conversations that institutions like ours must be willing to have. The study of Black history, culture, and life is not peripheral to the American story. It is central to it. To question its place in our curricula or to undermine the programs that sustain it is to intentionally and maliciously misunderstand both the past and the present. More importantly, it is to limit our collective capacity to think critically, to engage ethically, and to build a more just society. The Lemon Project stands as a response to that kind of intimidation. It insists that we do not turn away from these difficult truths. It calls on us to confront the ways in which knowledge has been shaped by power, and to imagine how it can be reshaped by our own communities. The work that the Lemon Project takes on and the work that each of us does daily is not always comfortable. It asks us to sit with complexity. It asks us to listen across difference. And it asks us to reconsider what we think we know. But it's precisely in that discomfort that meaningful learning and transformation begin. Today's symposium offers an opportunity to do that work together. as we stand united. Throughout the day, you will hear from scholars, students, and community members who are pushing the boundaries of knowledge, asking hard questions, and offering new frameworks for understanding both the past and engaging with the present. I encourage you to take full advantage of this space. Ask questions, challenge assumptions, your own and others. Be open to perspectives that may unsettle you. And remember that the goal is not simply to arrive at easy answers because there are none, but instead our goal is to deepen our understanding and strengthen our collective commitment to justice on this campus and in our world. At its core, the Lemon Project is about more than history. It is about responsibility. It is about what we do with what we know. It is about how we carry these conversations forward into our classrooms, our communities, and our institution. In a time when the value of this work is being questioned very publicly and very aggressively, your presence here today on this campus is a powerful statement from the nation's alma mater. It affirms that this work matters, that the search for truth matters, that the study of Black life and history is essential, not optional, and it cannot be erased. Thank you for being here and for your engagement and for your willingness to be a part of this ongoing journey. And I hope you make the most of this day and tomorrow. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all awake? Last night, Dr. Daniel Black reminded the young people at the College of William and Mary that their destiny cannot be changed or shaped by anyone. That means their light will forever and eternally shine, just as yours and mine will. And it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to you, as I fangirl out over our keynote speaker of the day, Daniel Black, PhD. Dr. Daniel Black is an award-winning novelist, professor, activist, mentor, and public speaker. His public works include They Tell Me of Home, The Sacred Place, Perfect Peace, 12 Gates to the City, my favorite, The Coming, Listen to the Lambs, Don't Cry for Me, and Black on Black. In 2014, he won the Distinguished Writers Award from the Mid-Atlantic Writers Association. The Go On Girl National Book Club named him Author of the Year in 2011 for his best-selling novel, Perfect Peace. Perfect Peace was also chosen as the 2014 selection for If All Arkansas Read the Same Book by the Arkansas Center for the Book at the Arkansas State Library. He's a native of Kansas City, Kansas. Dr. Black spent his formative years in rural Blackwell, Arkansas. He graduated from Clark College, now Clark Atlanta University, which is where I wanted to go to school, where he earned his initial degree. He continued from there by winning the prestigious Oxford Modern British Studies Fellowship and studied abroad at Oxford University. He was then awarded a full fellowship to Temple University, where he studied with Black Arts Movement Poet Laureate Sonia Sanchez. In 1992, he earned his PhD in African American Studies. Dr. Black has spent the majority of his 30 academic years as a professor of African American Studies at his beloved alma mater, Clark Atlanta University. Dr. Black's work has been justly celebrated by people like Pulitzer Prize winning author Alice Walker, who says this about Perfect Peace. It is the spellbinding novel that kept me reading late into several nights. A young boy raised as a girl until she was 8 years old, and then forced to be a boy. It is a gift to have so much passion, so much love, so much beautiful writing, so flawlessly faithful to the language of our ancestors who grappled as best they could with more than they could even understand. Dr. Black's newest novel, Don't Cry for Me, was released by HarperCollins on February 1st, 2022. About this novel, Jesmyn Ward said, Don't Cry for Me is a perfect song, the appository dirge of a man singing to his son as he faces death by cancer. It's at turns intense and funny, tender and brutally honest. Jacob's letter to his son Isaac is revelatory. It's a beautiful book, and I encourage you to read it. Dr. Black's newest work is his first essay collection titled Black on Black, which was released in January of 2023. Dr. Black also works as a diversity consultant, having spoken at many top-tier countries in America, such as Google, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, AT&T, and Global Payments. He assists corporations with creating work environments in which all employees of every level and difference feel supported and valued. If you read the work of Dr. Black and you have a mindset that's anything like mine, you know that in the 1950s and early 60s, they had James Baldwin. But right now, we have Daniel Black.
Wow. 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 I was like, where is that awesome brother she's talking about? My God. First of all, good morning to everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I would like to ask us to do one thing. You know, we're here talking about community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You read my mind. And we're here to work out some kinks in terms of how we return in history and resurrect voices and put together communities that were broken. And what I want us to do is I want you to do something very daring, everyone in this room. I want you to take about 30 seconds and find someone in this room you don't know at all and be bold enough to tell them who you are and what you do. Good morning. Good morning. Aww. Pray me up.
I saw you over here. I asked my CEO, can we go? Can we go? Get money. I was like, can we go? She's like, isn't this Friday? I'm like, yeah. Oh, the clothes, the restoration, the rest are there.
I'm glad you're here. Good morning to you. 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Ten seconds. 10 seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2. The founding fathers of this nation were not my daddies. They never dreamed my freedom or wrote into the Constitution all the rights which God above had guaranteed me. No, they conceived power for themselves, and through their Bill of Rights or Bill of Supremacy, etched into the very fabric of America their own social ascension. And this is America's problem right now. My descendants, the children of Africa, those they dragged here in chains, wouldn't rest until they were free. But freedom wasn't part of the deal. Indeed, what the Constitution guaranteed was the fractionalization, the dividing of the black soul into 3/5 of its original self, a state and condition which would assure that black people were never whole again. It worked for a few, but not for most. But the point here is that a broken black self was the aim of America's imagination of itself. Black children were never supposed to graduate from American academic institutions, but they did. Black people were never supposed to buy houses and live next door to those who owned their parents, but they did. Black people were never supposed to own cars. They were supposed to wash them and drive white folks around in them, but they did. Black women were supposed to clean house, not buy, sell, and own them. Black men were supposed to be Pullman porters on railways, not conductors, but they were. Black children were never supposed to be Olympic gymnasts or world-class swimmers. Hell, they weren't even supposed to share public pool water. And yet they did. And black people were never, ever imagined as citizens of heaven until black people themselves began to declare and sing about it. In fields of cotton all over this country, all the way up until my grandmother, black people used to sing, "Have you heard of a city where the streets are paved with gold?" They asked, "Have you heard of a city where the streets are paved with gold? Have you heard of a city where the streets are paved with gold?" And then they said, "There are 12 gates to the city. Hallelujah." See, when white folks said there's only one way to heaven, black ancestors said, no, there are 12 gates. Listen, to the city. And they broke it down and said there are 3 gates in the east. There are 3 gates in the west. 3 gates in the north. 3 gates in the south. In other words, you can get to God from any direction. In fact, yes, there are 12 gates to the city. And there are 24 elders in the city. There are 48 angels in the city. It's a great, big, beautiful city. The Negro spirituals describe heaven more thoroughly, more specifically than any other text I've ever encountered. See, the point here is that black people have been defiant since our arrival in this land. And that, my friends, is the only thing that's going to save America, our collective defiance. Now, there are a few black people, and some white ones too, who prove with their unbridled embracing of white supremacy that if black people would just obey and just submit, that their dreams of American prosperity would come true. This started on Southern plantations. White owners of black flesh created a social class for those enslaved individuals who traded their humanity for America's applause. They called them overseers because their job was to oversee white folks' possession and give their own lives, if necessary, to protect it. In exchange, they earned not freedom or social equality, but an extra biscuit in the morning or a new pair of shoes at Christmas, things that prepared them to serve whiteness even more excellently. See, in essence, they were used by plantation captors to show that black obedience would always be awarded. They found out, though, that it would not be rewarded. Not in this land of the unfree and the home of the coward. See, most black folks simply wouldn't obey, and the problem of disobedient Negroes is still the central problem in America. Now, let's be clear. America is sitting on a promise, a grand potential that, if realized, would make for the most remarkable nation on the planet Earth. That promise is that every person on this soil shares the same possibility for quality of life, regardless of race, gender, religion, political affiliation, sexuality, or regional identity. In other words, the promise of America is that anybody can be anything they want to be. But everyone knows it ain't true. Most believe men are the natural-born leaders and that God made them that way. Many people mock transgendered citizens, believing that their condition is some flighty teenage experiment. And practically everyone believes that if you're black, your upward mobility will be long and extremely hard. Why is this so? What's the difference and the distance between the promise and the truth? Well, it's called the imagination. See, when the founders of this semi-great republic gathered and penned its governing document, their imaginations didn't extend to the people they owned. When they said, "we the people," they should have said, "we the white people," those whom they considered people. They didn't say all of humanity or all of God's children, because that's not what they meant. They said what they meant. We know this because as they said it, their enslaved property stood next to them, fanning and serving food invisibly. They didn't whisper their declarations outside the earshot of enslaved folks. No, no, no. They said it to their faces, believing they had every right to decide who would inherit the wealth and power of the new republic. Those white men were not embarrassed or ashamed or mortified or chagrined. Oops, I'm a son of slaves. Should I know those words? What they were was emboldened and bolstered and boosted by their own self-centered notions of race and authority. In other words, what I'm saying is that at its foundation, America's problem is that it still imagines itself beneath itself, segregated, separated, divided. And as long as this is in the subconscious perception, and in many instances, the desire settled in American hearts, the promise of America will also be its betrayal. See, what should have happened in the 1960s, when segregation was the legal order of the day, was that just as black kids were bused to white schools, white kids should have been bused to black schools. That's what should have happened. Why? White children would have grown intellectually and spiritually under the tutelage of black teachers who knew that knowledge is both information and moral instruction. White children's character would have expanded to the reach and depth of real human beings, and America would have had the chance to be finally what it never imagined, a land where prince and pauper were free and either could lead the other. That's where America made its fatal error, to treat civil rights as a color issue. Why was this fatal? Because it exposed that to the average American, only black people were socially dispossessed. Well, that wasn't true. White people and everyone else in America were equally disenfranchised, but not socially, rather spiritually. America's great failing is its moral and spiritual bankruptcy. The fact that most people fight only for what affects them directly is the American dilemma. The fact that 90% of our populace wouldn't take to the streets for any social issue that doesn't directly affect their own lives. This narrow, self-centered way of being creates a society of self-righteous, ego-driven, materially obsessed people who couldn't care less what happens to most other human souls. And this deteriorates America's promise practically down to a joke. So what can we do, you might ask, especially now that white supremacy reigns at the helm of this country? Well, I suggest three things. Number one, white people should attend black churches for a year and discover the difference between the Holy Spirit and the Holy Ghost. And if you think there is no difference, you're the one who needs to go and get the lesson. It is under the unction of the Holy Ghost that black people have not, since the days of slavery, burned America to the ground. See, if white people knew what we knew, we could build a nation together where everyone is respected and honored. Black people have extended this kindness to whites even after being decimated by them. For example, Black Wall Street, you heard of it. We know what happened there. Black people had literally built a civilization. And some folks came and burned it to the ground the first chance they got. You remember Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina? When the white boy came into the black church and killed the people, black people didn't take vengeance upon him because it is against our cultural and spiritual mandate to do so. But white people have destroyed black people for decades and have done so publicly and invited their children to watch them do it. See, the problem is this. The problem is not a person. The problem is not white people. The problem is that we don't believe in everybody's divinity. Once we get there, where everybody's divinity is holy, then we will be on our way to the promise. There have always been white people who assisted the black struggle, and we're happy about it. That is true, and everyone knows it. But they didn't have to do it. That's the problem. Black people have always had to honor white power and privilege, whether it was honorable or not. And as long as others see kindness as liberalism and not righteousness, we'll have the divided nation we now have. We need to destroy the American obsession with and love for violence, number 2. This country was built on the utility of violence, the possession of the strength to destroy and pay nothing for it. Americans love to watch power dismantle anything that gets in its way. This includes people. Hence our celebration of cowboys over Indians. Our gambling on dog fights, our cheering at boxing matches, our grunting and groaning when a football lineman knocks an opponent on his ass. We love the dream of destruction because if we can destroy, we think that confirms our privilege, our strength, our divine favor. Actually, all it confirms is the flourishing of our lowest bestial selves. But as long as violence titillates our imagination, we'll get joy and pleasure from one another's destruction. And finally, number 3, we need to stop making God agree with our own preferences. We need to discontinue the religious trend to put our patriarchy and our misogyny in God's mouth, even if it's in the Bible. Boy, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. Who God is in our hearts is more reliable than who God is in a book. Oh, Daniel Black. See, racism is enshrined in the Bible as divine. Ephesians chapter 6 says, quote, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ." What? And the next verse says, "Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart." Is somebody crazy? What? What? If this is true, then Harriet Tubman ran in sin. If this is true, Frederick Douglass wrote in opposition to God's will. Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and Gabriel Prosser and Toussaint Louverture must have been a disappointment to God. Ain't no way in hell that's true. No way. This is the danger of being handed a God by people who never met God. Black people have to get to a place where we write another Bible, one that says what God said to us. Then freedom will be within reach to everyone. See, we have to learn to fight when our own rights are not at stake. We have to learn to fight anytime anyone challenges another's humanity. We have to learn to fight whenever anyone suggests that God doesn't look like you. For see, freedom won't be maintained because you have it. Freedom will be maintained because you refuse not to have it. All of us. One person cannot carry freedom. This is why Harriet Tubman returned south after she tasted freedom. The sweetness went sour on her tongue. She realized that freedom won't stay in any one place too long. It changes residence by the day. It seeks every place it is welcome. It serenades every soul who will listen. Freedom is not a personal possession. It is a collective inheritance of a people who refuse to be led by bondage and fear. That's all of us. We cannot beat racism by hating racism. We beat racism by hating oppression of any kind, of anybody. Hating white people is an absolute, total, and complete waste of time. We don't hate people. We love righteousness. Hatred promises no transformation, no growth of the spirit, no difference in the world we construct for ourselves or our children. But the love of power and materiality is also a sad, immature pursuit. The only thing that will save us now is the risk to admit the truth of how we treated each other and the mutual commitment for all of us to do better tomorrow. And by doing better tomorrow, I mean the risk to believe that God looks like the person you thought you didn't prefer. See, if we're going to change earth, we got to change heaven too. Because we imagine both of them. And until heaven gets a little darker, until at least some of the angels are beautifully black with almond chocolate wings, until God's flowing white blonde hair gets a little nappy and points towards the sky, until at least some of the music in heaven is polyrhythmic and got a kind of hip-hop beat, and at least some of the food in heaven is dressing instead of stuffing. We're not on our way yet, and this is why I write, to convince us that our unity is our only salvation, to give each of you permission to stand boldly for someone else's rights, to tell you that if we don't stand together, every single one of us, the black, the white, the Latino, the gay, the so-called straight, if we don't stand together and vote this dictator out, he will destroy every single one of us and never look back. You got to get clear, y'all, who your allies are. You got to know that we are the way, all of us, everyone in this room. We who are unafraid, we who are fearless, we who are courageous, we who are brave, we who are spirited, we the audacious, we who are gutsy, we who are valiant, just like Mr. Lemon was. This is not the time for the weak, the uncertain, the timid, the unsure, the fragile, the delicate, the brittle, the breakable. No, no, no. We need an army of scholars and researchers and writers who ain't afraid to tell the truth about a nation with all the potential in the world, yet one that profits off of ignorance and greed. We didn't come together this weekend to chill and to complain. No, we came because, like Harriet, we need a strategy to go back and rescue the lost. Nobody's coming to free us but us. Nobody's coming to free us but us. Nobody's coming to free us but us. Nobody's going to set America aright but us. Don't depend on Democrats and don't depend on Republicans either. Don't depend on schools. Don't depend on the churches either. Don't depend on Congress. Don't depend on the Supreme Court. We've got to depend on each other. That's all we got. Those who know that change and transformation happens on the ground and travels upward. Those who know that God don't do nothing until you do. Those who know that race, sex, gender, class are arbitrary characters, arbitrary categories that simply divide, transform us, and pit us against each other. If you believe in freedom, you're an ally. If you think racism is stupid, you're an ally. If you fight hard for your authentic self, you're an ally. If you know that our children are worth more than the price of oil, you're an ally. If you understand that we study slavery, not in order to hate anyone, but to learn what black ancestors knew about strength and survival and love in the midst of madness, then you're an ally. If you know that God looks like everybody in this room, you're an ally. So come on, allies, and let's figure out where we're going. Let's figure out how we're going to get there. Let's right this ship before we let some fool take it down. let's look across differences. No, let's use differences to create a tidal wave of knowledge that forces our brothers and sisters to see that if you ain't fighting for righteousness, you in the way. You're dead weight. You're part of the problem. Everybody in this room, we are the allies. We are the ones. We are the way, the truth, and the life. We are the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. We are the rising and the setting sun, the hope of the ancestors. Don't worry, Mr. Lemon, we got you. Some of us ain't forgot, and we ain't gonna stop till the whole world knows what everybody in this room already knows. Only the bold survive.
Thank you so much, Dr. Black. Wow. Whew. You can take a deep breath. That's all right. So, I'm going to give you a moment to catch your breath. And then we're going to have Q&A for the next 15 minutes. And after that, he will be signing books in the concourse, and then we'll move to our other sessions. So, are you good now? Yes, and I think we have a couple of microphones that can run. I think, Vicki, you have that one. If we can have someone else to run the mic on this side, that'll be great. Here we go. All right.
I don't know. He must have said a mic.
So we have a mic on this side and a mic on that side. So if you have questions, we have 15 minutes, and we can engage further with Dr. Black. I'll let you speak.
Okay. Ooh, Jesus. Okay, anyone. There's a brother here. Okay. How you doing, brother?
All right, how are you doing?
Great.
I don't get to hold the mic. Thank you for that inspirational speech.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, wow. Yes, sir.
Full of power,
Yes, sir.
strength, spirit.
Yes, sir.
I retired twice as an educator. Artists, I've taught all kinds.
Yes, sir.
My question to you and the people that are here today is, in this field of education, public school education, which
Yes.
has been underfunded
Oh,
by
absolutely.
design,
Sure.
because they cry about, we want these kids to be critically thinkers.
That's right.
But they're not, because they're taught not to think critically, because if they were able to critically think, then they would know how to decipher or discern when a politician is lying to them. Check the base out. What can we do as educators, teaching the masses?
I got you.
Okay, what can we do when we're in that classroom?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The thing I think that all educators in this country have to do, right? Again, across race, I think all educators have to do one serious thing: have a standard curriculum and an underground curriculum. When the officials come, be prepared to tell them, this is what I'm teaching. Right? And when they leave, pull out the underground curriculum. See, it's the same strategy our ancestors used to get from south north, if you understand what I'm saying. Right? It's the same strategy, right? Because someone is always surveilling those of us who are trying to change the world, right? And without an underground curriculum, all we do is contribute unto the problem. We've got to teach children things that's not in the books. We have to teach children things that's not on the standardized tests, right? And it's important to teach it because really their lives depend upon it, right? And later, if somebody asks, did you teach it? Say, I don't know what you're talking about. Because again, if we don't do this, we become so fearful that we lose our transformative edge as educators, right? It's extremely important for us to keep that edge, because without that edge, right, the school becomes simply a mouthpiece for the ignorance of the larger nation, right? So Get you an underground curriculum and get very, very clear about it. I teach at Clark Atlanta University. I've been there now 32 years, right? It's an HBCU, right? And I have about 4 curriculums. There are all kinds of things I'm teaching, right? There's nowhere on anybody's curriculum, but every student needs to learn it, must learn it. You have to know it, right? Because without knowing that, our children die.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think this is the 3rd time I've heard you speak in person, and anybody who knows me has been introduced to you.
Aw.
So thank you.
I'm very honored.
My question is similar to the gentleman, where in the public schools, I have seen, first of all, I've listened to one of your lectures, and you talked about the gifts that we brought with us, right? And in the schools, I could see kids. I could tell the kid that's a seer. I could tell the kid that had the gift of art. I could tell the kid that had the gift of, speaking.
Inspiration, healing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those things aren't necessarily cultivated
Right.
in the public
Right.
schools. My question, though, is for the adults, how do we as a community build those gifts that may have been lost and may have been dimmed?
Yes.
Because I feel like we need the collective gifts to make collective movement.
Sure, absolutely.
So how do we as a community help each other to reach what we may have missed?
Sure. In fact, you know what I've discerned? What I've discerned over the last maybe 10 years is I think we're probably at a place where we need to go back as a country. I think we need education for people 50 years old and older, right? If it's evening schools, Saturday schools, where the elders meet us at the church for 3 hours, the white elders, the black elders, every elder we can get, because really the assumption that the kids are the ones who don't know is really what's messing us up. The elders don't either. Right. And so what would it mean to have a room like this on a Saturday morning full of representative folks like this, and we begin to teach history, and we begin to teach it right, and not just teach history, we begin to teach those aspects of different cultures, right, that would help us see each other and love each other and understand each other, and learn that many cultures already had the answers to the things we're wondering. Like if you're talking about environmental issues, go to the Native Americans. They knew the environment better than any of us, certainly this one in America, right? It seems so ridiculous not to ask the Native Americans, wow, what in the world should we do? We're poisoning our own water. First of all, who's that dumb, right? And so what I'm saying is, it would be really amazing if we just took a chance, right, and invited the seniors, the elders, to a place where knowledge is being disseminated, right? And the reason this is important is these folks are the grandparents, right? They go back and talk to the grandchildren, and then that knowledge begins to siphon and trickle down. See, by the time we let children get out of school, right, it's going to be a long time before we'll get them in our hands to educate again, right? And too many of us we're in America, but we don't really know each other. Not really, not truly. And so that's what I would do. In fact, I'm doing some of this work in Atlanta, and it is literally mind-boggling. It's really so it's just unbelievable. I'm teaching some folks who are in their 70s, and they never miss class. Like, how did I never know this? Oh my God, this is so incredible, right? So that's what I would do. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Back here.
Dr. Black.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember, you took my $20 and tore it up.
Yes.
But my question is, going back to what you told the students yesterday about a new way of looking at identity.
Yes.
That the parents didn't choose you. You chose the parents.
Yes.
And that you chose to come to the earth with the gift.
Yes, I believe that.
I wish I had you as my elementary teacher, high school teacher, BS, MA, and PhD. And I just needed maybe, it's so much out there on African spirituality.
Yes,
And
yes.
I just needed, Dr. Black, maybe a couple of authors, you know, that we
Sure.
may want to start with.
Sure. There's a great book that I would recommend to anyone called The Healing Wisdom of Africa by a gentleman named Malidoma Some. The Healing Wisdom of Africa is a fantastic, fantastic text that introduces African spiritual systems. There's another book called Flash of the Spirit. That's a great one. Those two is probably where I would start. Right? There are many, many others, but that's where I would begin. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Oh, there's one over. Okay. I'm fine. Oh, do I know you, young man? Yes. Oh. Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Black.
Good morning.
For that awesome presentation.
Thank you.
I am the president of the Hampton Roads branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History.
Yes.
And my question is, last year, you talk about teaching Black history. But last year, I met with a group of Black churches, and I gave them, what we need to do would be possible for them to come together and let us come in, set up, some classes, some
Yes.
sessions. We weren't asking for any money.
Right.
We were asking for locations that we could depend on. I have the people. I want you to know what happened. I spent my whole time just talking.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me this man's name I was supposed to call. I called, I text, I email. And to this day, we have nothing. So, can you give us some ideas? I mean, because I know that if we don't teach our history, it's not going to be done.
Sure.
And
Yes. Yes. Let me give you a few ideas.
Okay.
Number one, it won't be every church that will be reliable. Also, don't only call the Black ones. Right? That's very important too. Remember, when you're doing the Underground Railroad, white churches were involved too. Right? White churches might in fact be a little more friendly to this effort. Why? Because when you start doing something this insidious, when you start doing something this cutting edge, a lot of times we get scared. Right? So I would absolutely call white churches in the area also. I think that's extremely, extremely important. Also, call community centers. All you need is a space. See, we're the teachers. All you need is the space to do it. Again, I'm doing this in Atlanta, and I'm doing it at a church. And the church said, listen, just anytime. Come on, bring the kids anytime. Sometimes there's 50 or 60 of us in there, right? In an area that's supposed to be 40 people, right? But folks are hungry for it. But don't get discouraged when 1, 2, or 3 churches like, I don't know about this. There are 50 gazillion churches in America, and most of them are empty on Saturdays. That's the point. The space is already available, right? But also understand, as I was saying, allies will come in every color, right? That's incredibly important to realize. The allies will come in absolutely, positively every color. And in a few instances, you'll find allies in places you didn't even think about. In other words, sometimes even the mosque will say, sure, use our space. Because what you're doing is not religious, it's cultural. Right. So those are recommendations I give you. And I know a lot of churches in a lot of places, because I speak around a lot. So I might can even give you a recommendation of a person in your area, so we'll talk afterwards. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, young man.
Good morning, Dr. Black.
Good morning, sir.
It's so great to see you.
Oh, wow. Do I know? No, I'm just kidding. Y'all, this is Dr. Kyle Fox. I taught Dr. Fox at Clark Atlanta for his PhD, and I was the chair of his dissertation. And he's now professor at College of Coastal Georgia. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I mean, he's the dean. Forgive me.
So much of your work is powerful. It
I appreciate
illuminates stories and lived experiences of Black people. From your perspective, what is the most significant impact that writing can have on individuals or communities? And in what ways do you see storytelling as a tool for personal and collective transformation?
I think storytelling is the ancient medium, really. It's really the ancient medium by which the transformation of spirit, the transformation of knowledge occurs. really, there is no strong people without a strong storytelling tradition. Because storytelling really, the power of storytelling, first of all, is that it's ever evolving. Meaning a good storyteller, it's never the same story twice, right? But you want it that way because that's the way history is also. Because see, when you start doing storytelling, you learn things that history cannot tell you, right? One of the things I've been telling students lately is that in many instances, our study of history in America, and certainly our study of Black history, we've actually been studying the wrong things, right? For example, we keep studying white people's behavior, white people's treatment of Black people as Black history. That's not Black history. That's American history, right? My history is not what you did to me. Does somebody understand what I'm saying to you? Right. The Middle Passage is European history. Europeans own the boats. Europeans own the cargo on the ship. So when Europeans start teaching, when Americans start talking about American history, what American history should start with a slave ship. Really, because it's y'all ship. Right. But if we're not careful, we relegate that unto Black history because Black folks were the recipients of that ugliness. Right? Wrong history. It's like convincing a woman that the rape is her history. That's not her history. And in fact, and if she's not careful, she'll carry that trauma a lifetime as if that behavior belongs to her existence. It does not. It absolutely does not. Right? So really, the study of slavery is not who did they beat, what families were separated. That's not the study of slavery. That's not the study of slavery. That is not the study of slavery. The study of slavery is how the hell did Harriet Tubman run that many times? That's the study of, that's Black history. That's what. How did Frederick Douglass write like that and never went to school? That's what I want to know. And I also want to know, how in the world did he do that at night? There was no electricity. I want to know how you, that's what I want to know. Frederick Douglass, how you pull that off? Right? And then we'll start seeing that, he wrote most of this on full moon nights. That means then that the moon agreed with Frederick Douglass's freedom. Listen, you better let me sit down because, see, that's Black history to me, right? Black history to me is how in the world did Black women figure out how you put a map on a quilt? I need that. Because when they laid the quilt out on the bed, everybody saw it. How in the world didn't other people figure, y'all didn't see that map? No, because in fact, it was so ingeniously put into the general fabric, the general confusion, if you will, of the tapestry itself, that many Black eyes missed it too, right? But the genius, but somebody should have known that the quilt was coming. Why? Because you took the people who did the kente, right? It's just called transmutation and synthesis. You just get to a new place and they transmute. It just transmutes the manifestation, but the excellence and the genius comes with it. If you take Black people to the moon, we're going to sing on the moon. It's still going to happen. Now, it might be a moon song, right? But it's still going to happen. But if we're not careful, we'll be so angry about having been enslaved that we'll miss the genius of how we survived it. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Dr. Black.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here today.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me start with I'm a descendant of Ama, Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
I recently found out that is my lineage.
Yes, ma'am.
But I've been operating through inherited strength and courage through her before even knowing who she was.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's ancestral, and I acknowledge her.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything I do now. We talked, that someone mentioned freedom schools.
Sure.
Last year, we were in the room with you, and we were inspired. So we now conduct a freedom school here in Williamsburg.
Oh, absolutely.
My partner is in the room. I don't know if she wants to be acknowledged.
Yes.
But she's here. I want her to.
Yes, ma'am. Ashe.
And so what the first round of the Freedom School is the playwright August Wilson.
Yes.
His works are being taught to the children.
Yes.
Most of the children are middle schoolers, a couple of high schoolers. And one of the things that you spoke about is about the elders. So the elders, the grandparents and aunties and parents, many of them are in the room.
Yeah.
They would show up to
Wow.
drop the children off.
Wow.
But now they stay.
Wow.
And it's a lesson for everyone.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
a community for everyone.
Yes,
and
yes.
we are laying the foundation. The children are learning not only about August Wilson, but about their own heritage, because
Yes.
we get to talk about their families as well. So we're laying this foundation for them to be the future. So that is the work that we're doing, and I thank you for inspiring us to do this in our community.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Awesome. Is there one more? Anyone? There's a young lady here.
Hey, Dr. Black.
Hey. I taught her too.
Similar to Dr. Fox, it's a question I've been thinking about since the last time you were here. Just very quickly, one of the things that has stayed with me since I left Clark Atlanta University is your ability to help people fall in love with the power of words. And I would love if you could speak to that a little bit, particularly as we are seeing children who want to read less and less. And how can we inspire them and anyone to really fall in love and recognize the power of words, very similar to the concept of storytelling?
Yes. I would say a couple of things. One of those things is I realized as a child that the only thing that could really transform another person that other people couldn't take from you is a thing called language, right? When I was a kid, I was a rather precocious kid. I was a little dramatic, I think. And I started playing piano when I was about 3 years old. By the time I was 6, 7, I was the church musician. I was sitting on piano. I was sitting on telephone books because I was so small, right? But I could play pretty well. And the thing I remember more than anything, Dr. Egglesman, is the way people reacted when the preacher would talk. And I remember, the preacher could, get riled up and folks would get so excited. And I remember just like, wow, it was so fascinating to me because these were poor Black folks in the country in rural Arkansas. And that's where the power of words really got introduced to me. And then my great-grandmother, born in the 1890s, she lived until I graduated from high school. And when I was maybe 7 or 8, she would have me read to her. Her eyesight went bad. And I was a good reader. And I'd come home from school and she'd say, all right, bub, bring me the book. When she said that, she always meant the Bible. And she'd say, choose something and read it to me. Some days she would give me the passage to read to her. And I would read sometimes for hours and she would just sit and rock, right? And sometimes she'd say, slow it down. You just calling words. Slow it down, right? And then one day she told me, she said, I want you to memorize 1 Corinthians chapter 13. She was in her 90s at this point. I was probably 12 or so. I said, all right, fine. Why? She said, don't worry about the why. You just memorize it. I said, okay. I took a day or so and I said, okay, Grandma, I think I got it memorized. She said, all right, say it to me. I said, all right. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I become as a sounding brass. She said, no, sir. She said, no, son, no. I said, did I choose the wrong verse? Did I misunderstand you? She said, no. You don't have it yet. I said, what do you mean, Mama? I don't have it yet. She said, start again. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, I just said it louder, right? Have not love, I become as a sounding brass. She said, you don't have it yet. You don't have it yet. I said, what do you, she said, baby, words got to live in your heart first. And I said, ma'am, what are you talking about? I'm 12. Care nothing about that, And she said, you'll get it in a minute, just keep saying it. So we went over and over and over this, right? And it took me about 30 times. This is a true story. And I said, oh my God, I got it. I got it. This is a true story. I said, I got it. I said, Grandma, I got it. She said, you sure? I said, I got it. She said, well, give it to me. I said, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I am as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of faith and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, but have not love, it profits me nothing. She said, ah, shit, come on, boy. Because what she was teaching me is if the word doesn't come alive, you don't have it, right? And what I realized at that point was just how powerful words are. So I started writing short stories. I'm a poor black kid in Arkansas. I started writing poems. One year for Christmas, I wrote poems for all my siblings. I have 5 brothers. I wrote poems for all of my brothers and wrote it up like a scroll and tied it and put a ribbon around it. And each of them got a poem, right? My brothers cursed me out. They're like, I don't want no fucking poem for Christmas. The hell is wrong with you? What's funny now is all of them are looking for that poem. They're like, dang, what happened to that poem you wrote? Because the truth of the matter is, I discovered, and being at Clark too, is that you can speak around distress. You can speak around shortcomings. You can speak around trouble. You can speak around shortcomings. If a person gets the right word, Maureen, you can circumvent any situation and you can create a whole existence that doesn't even occur. It doesn't even exist yet. But with the power of words, you can move into a reality and wait for the rest of the world to catch up with you. Right. And that's what I pray that I do in my writing. And that's what I pray I've discovered, because really I'm at this HBCU because the legacy of words, right, is really why I went into education at all. Right. I thought I went into education for money. I figured out very quickly that's not true. Right. But what I did want to do is make a whole lot of influence. Right. And I feel like I have done that. And if, in fact, I've done that, then I'm doing the same thing that Henry Highland Garnett and Zora Hurston and Baldwin and Frederick Douglass and all of them discovered, and that is the legacy of words will speak for you long after your body goes silent.
Thank you again, Dr. Black. Let's give him a louder applause. All right. Yeah. So after this, we're going to have a book signing. So he's going to be in the concourse signing books. So please purchase the books. And we have about at 11 o'clock is the next session in here. So you'll have some time to get some coffee, to fellowship with one another. But he'll be out there signing for the next, I think, about 30 minutes or so. Yeah. Maybe a long line, but that's all right. And so we will convene here at 11 for our first session, and that is Reclaiming the 19th Century of the Ambler's House in James City County. I also want to make a note that we do have evaluation forms. We ask that you complete those for us. There is a form accessible to those on Zoom as well, so when you log out, I think that form will pop up. And please, we really will appreciate if you would complete that for us. Also, if you need some quiet space or some time to maybe have a one-on-one conversation with someone, we have a room available, room 1056. Feel free to use that space if you need some quiet time. I also want to note that for those who ordered kosher meals, I think those are halal, kosher and halal. Thank you. And so those will be at the registration desk. So where you checked in, those meals will be there. Let's see, did I forget anything else? I think I'm good. But First session starts here at 11 o'clock. Again, thank you all for being present. Thank you for being here with us. Again, take some time in the concourse to fellowship and buy books, speak with our guests for a few more moments, and then we will reconvene in this space at 11 o'clock. And feel free to stick around if you need to as well. Thank you again.